When we were much younger, many of us learned subtraction when we were like in primary 2, 3, 4, 5. And you remember that when the teacher will write 2 minus 8 or 3 minus 5, the whole class will shout, "Impossible! How can 2 minus 8? There is not enough." And the teacher would smile and say, "What do we do?" And then we all shout, "We borrow 1." And they will put 1 and the problem gets solved. Then we got older. In secondary school, mathematics then became more honest. When the teacher writes 2 minus 8, nobody will shout "impossible." Nobody will even try to borrow. Nobody will panic. The answer will just become what? -6. Because now we understand what we did not understand before on the number line. We now understand that a number can go below 0. There is a negative side of the number line. You see, I think many adults are still living life like primary school mathematics. They believe that their problems cannot be bigger than their capacity. They believe that there is a limit to how bad things can get. They believe that perhaps there is a point where life must stop subtracting. Then adulthood arrives and reality introduces them to negative numbers. That's when you realize that you can lose a job in one day. In that same day, you can lose a loved one. In that same day, you can lose your relationship. In that same day, you can have a panic attack and land in the hospital. In that same day, your landlord can call you that the rent has increased. In that same day, the car can break down and it will be towed. In that same day, the money that you were expecting, you will not get it. In that same day, somebody can even disappoint you. And suddenly, you realize that life can push you below 0. Oh, yes. You see, some people think or some people assume that this is the worst thing that could happen. This is the worst. Oh, my dear. Unfortunately, sometimes life will reply you with, "You haven't seen anything yet." If you think you cannot get poorer, my dear, you can. If you think you cannot carry more responsibility, my dear, you can. If you think you cannot add more weight, you can. If you think your heart cannot break even more, it can. If you think people cannot disappoint you further, that will shock you more, my dear, they can. If you think abuse cannot get worse, it can. The negative side of life is very real. And this is where resilience matters. And this is why preparation matters. This is why emotional strength matters. This is why wisdom matters. Because, my dear, life subtracts. Life is constantly subtracting. Time subtracts. Disappointment subtracts. Grief subtracts. Failure subtracts. Pain subtracts. Betrayal subtracts. Aging subtracts. Life is always subtracting something. You are no longer in primary 2 where you are still shouting, "Impossible! We must borrow 1." You see, whatever you do, ensure that you don't get into the negative. It's better for you to stay on the lowest positive than for you to enter into the negative. Why? Let me explain. Imagine that there are 2 people. Person A is at +2. Person B is at -10. If both decide that they want to improve their lives by 12 points, person A will move from 2 to what? To 14. And person B will move from what? -10 to 2. Notice something. They both gained the same amount. Yet they did not arrive at the same place. Because the person in the negative has to put more to get to 0 first before pushing to the positive. So even before you can even start building a positive life, you have to get to the base of 0. That is why when you get to the negative, it is harder to do a comeback. This is also why it looks like people may be appearing to be working hard, but the results are not very visible. The progress is not very prominent. Sometimes it looks like they are not moving forward, even though they are trying their best. It's because you are coming from the negative. You are recovering. It's like somebody that is climbing out of a hole. You have to first climb out of the hole before you start walking. So you are walking. Sometimes you are in the negative. So now you have to try and get back to 0. And then you can then move forward to 1, 2. And that is why as an adult, as a young woman, as a young man, you should never be casual about what keeps you in the positive number line. People think strength is optional. It isn't. People think community, joy, healthy relationships are optional. These things aren't. These are the things that can help you be on the positive number line so that you can have capacity when life starts subtracting and you are not heading towards the negative. Every healthy thing in your life is helping you keep you in the positive. This is why as an adult, you should try to add to yourself, add knowledge, add skills, add discipline, add friendships, good healthy friendship, add savings, add emotional regulation, add faith, Add resilience, add hope, add gratitude. Not because life is easy, but because life subtracts. And when life starts subtracting, my dear, it is better to start from 100 than from 2. One of the greatest, biggest mistakes people make is assuming they can permanently live on the edge. You can't. You will run yourself into exhaustion. So you stay in unhealthy relationships, you ignore your health, you ignore the things that are supposed to keep you on the positive side of things. You ignore your finances, you neglect your emotional well-being. When life starts to subtract, suddenly you find yourself in the negative. And your comeback will be difficult. Why am I teaching you this? You see, adulthood is realizing that life is not primary school. Oh. We are not doing primary school math. You can go below 0. I'm telling you the truth. And sometimes you will. But wisdom is spending your life building enough strength, enough character, enough support, enough faith, enough resources, enough resilience, so that when life does its little annoying subtractions, you remain standing. The goal is not pretending that negatives do not exist. The goal is building a life strong enough to survive them, so that when life subtracts 100, you will have 100 more. So add to yourself more love, more care, more discipline, more courage, more wisdom. Add to yourself more patience, more resilience. Nothing should take you to the negative, because the subtractions are coming. Life will always subtract. And when it does, you will be grateful that you spent your years building instead of merely surviving. That is why Proverbs 10:14. The wise store up knowledge. I hope you have learned something today. Thanks for watching.